Hey guys, it's Adrian Shepherd here, author of iSucceed, and today I'm honored to have with me Mr. Jim Stovall. Jim has been a national champion Olympic weightlifter, the president of the Emmy award-winning narrative television network, and a highly sought-after author and platform speaker. He is the author of the best-selling book, The Ultimate Gift, which was turned into a major motion picture. Steve Forbes, president and CEO of Forbes magazine, called him one of the most extraordinary men of our era, and it's a pleasure to have you with us on the line today, Jim.
It is great to be with you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so that's just a quick little intro of just who you are, but I know there's so much more to you. Could you tell us about who you are and how you got to where you are today, Jim?
Well, I mean, today people try to figure out what it is I do. You've heard of people with a multiple personality disorder. I have kind of a multiple professional disorder, and people don't know, are you the founder and president of a television network, the author of 24 books, a weekly syndicated columnist, a movie producer, or a platform arena speaker? And the answer is all of the above, because although there are many outlets, I only do one thing. I am in the message business, and I figured that out a long time ago. And as long as my people and I focus on our message and what it is we do, things turn out well for us. But, when I look back at growing up here in Oklahoma and my hometown of Tulsa, where you're talking to me from today, and when I think about, I grew up as a young man, and I only had one ambition in my life, was to be a professional football player and play in the NFL, the National Football League. And I was well on my way to doing that when one season before going to play football again, I was diagnosed with a condition that would cause me to lose my sight, and instantly realizing there were no blind guys in the NFL, I figured I got to do something different. So I shifted and became an Olympic weightlifter, finished my athletic career doing that, and then found the career path I mentioned to you earlier.
What's your secret?
I do what I love. I love what I do. I have a passion for what I do, and I honestly believe that is the key. I've interviewed hundreds of the most successful people from movie, politics, sports, every field of endeavor, and the one thing they all have in common is a passion for what they do, because we're all in a competitive world, and if you don't have a passion for what you do, you will be competing against someone that does have a passion, and they will work harder, work longer, do more than you will do, because it doesn't seem like work to them. It seems like fun. It's play. And that's what I feel like I do all day, every day.
I couldn't agree more. A lot of people get into business to make money, but I like what you said. You're in the message business. I love that. I've never heard that being said before, and I think that's fabulous. That's what I'm trying to do here, and I'm just trying to follow your lead and follow in your footsteps. Now, I remember that Charlie Tremendous Jones introducing me to your book, The Ultimate Gift, saying it was one of the best books he had ever read, and I loved it. Could you tell the audience what it was about and how you came up with the idea for it?
Well, I had written 6 or 7 books before The Ultimate Gift, and they were all business books, success books, how-to books, and I was running out of material. I'd written everything I knew and a few things I only kind of suspected, and when the publishers called and wanted another book, I realized I got to do something different, so I decided to write a novel, and that was my first novel, and had no idea how to do it or what I was doing. When I came to work that day, the only thing I had in my mind was the first line of the book. It was my 80th year of life on earth and my 53rd year in the practice of the law, that I was to undertake an odyssey that would change my existence forever. And I had Dorothy, who I dictate all of my books and screenplays and columns and everything to. I had her read that line back to me, and then I thought, well, that sounds good. I wonder who said that and what's he talking about. And over the next 5 days, between my other meetings and phone calls here at the Narrative Television Network, I wrote a book called The Ultimate Gift, and there's never been an edit, never a rewrite. The way I dictated it is the way 8 million people around the world now have read that book.
Wow.
In over 24 languages, and it was made into a major movie from 20th Century Fox with James Garner and Brian Dennehy and Abigail Breslin, and we just made the sequel movie based on my second novel in that series, The Ultimate Life, and it will be out later this year. In fact, I just returned from the movie set. I was over there 4 days. doing my normal little cameo. If people have ever seen any of my movies, there have been 4 of them now. 4 of my novels have been turned into motion pictures. I always appear somewhere in the film playing the limo driver. I don't know why, but something to me always made sense about the blind guy driving the limo.
You're doing a little Stephen King there, aren't you?
I guess so, and it's funny, the last movie we did was based on my novel, The Lamp, and I had a scene in New York City where I was dropping this character off in front of the Forbes building, and I had actually asked my friend Steve Forbes to do a cameo appearance in the film, which he did, and so at the appointed hour, they have this double for me. He drives the limo in, and he gets out, and I get in, and I say my line to the actor, and the actor says his line, and director says cut, and I get out, and the double gets in, and all he's got to do is drive off into traffic, and and when the guy says action, lo and behold, he pulls out and hits a cab. Has an accident right in front of the Forbes building, and I told our director, I said, how much worse than that could I have done? I believe I could do that, but no, it was a joke in the first movie, and ever since then it's been something that all the movie producers want me to do, and it's kind of been fun. So I just returned from being the limo driver again.
Wow, great. I look forward to seeing that later this year then.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in that first book, you talk about the gifts of life. Yeah. And which are the 2 or 3 that you think stood out the most to you?
Well, the book, when I wrote it, it's a billionaire is approaching the end of his life, and he wants to pass on some values to his grandson, not just his valuables, because he realizes if he makes him an instant billionaire, it will ruin him. It won't be a blessing to him. It'll be a curse. Mm-hmm. And so he teaches him the gift of work and money and family and all these other gifts. There's 12 of them. If I had to pick 1 or 2, I would certainly pick the gift of a day. Because, everybody has a 10-year plan and a life goal and whatever they want to do. But really, when push comes to shove, it all comes down to today. It doesn't matter what you did in the past, and it doesn't matter what you hope you're going to do in the future. Life is today. It's right now. This is what's happening here. And unless you master this and enjoy this, you can never have a great life. So the key to having that great life or that ultimate life is to have an ultimate day. So if I had to pick one of those gifts, I would certainly pick the gift of a day.
Didn't you write a book about something about the day as well?
Yeah, I write a weekly syndicated column. It's now in about 400 newspapers and magazines all around the world. And I end every one of those columns with the phrase, today's the day. They all have some advice or something, observation of mine. But then I always like to remind my reader, no matter what you do it today, because today's the day. It doesn't matter what it is. And we're actually, with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, we're coming out with a second volume of those columns, and I'm excited about that. It'll be called Winner's Wisdom, but the first one was called Today's the Day. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and that's why I think the gift of a day is so important, because we're only as powerful as what we do today, and I believe the message resounds through that you can have a great life by just having a great day, by doing the next thing right. And every moment of every day before I do anything, whether it's answer the phone or do this interview or write a letter or make a speech or do a meeting, whatever it is I'm doing at any moment, I always ask myself before I start, what would I do right now if I were amazing? What would I do right now, this instant? It may seem like some minor thing, but what would I do right now if I were amazing? Because if you will approach every task throughout your day, no matter how big or how mundane that task may be, if you'll approach it like, I am amazing and I'm going to perform this next task as if I were amazing, before you know it, you will be having an amazing life.
I love it. I think Tony Robbins does something like that before he goes on stage as well. He pumps himself up and just gives it everything he's got each and every time, and that's why he's one of the best in the business, just like you are. I
have worked with Tony several times, and he does indeed do that. It's because I can assure you, when you fly around and do arena events, it looks fun and glamorous, and many times it is, and I'm blessed to be able to do it. But there are days when you don't feel on top of your game, and you just as soon not go out there. But I have to realize that to the guy sitting 83 rows back there somewhere, today's his day. And if I don't do what it is I came here to do, he may never have the opportunity to do what he's supposed to do. And Tony's very well aware of that, and he approaches everything as if it were transformational.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was. It could have been maybe Napoleon Hill. I think he did one of his last great speeches in front of there was a huge arena that he'd rented out to do his final speech, and I believe only 18 people showed up because they did everything wrong in their marketing. They got everything wrong. And yet he went out and gave it his best. And I think Dan Kennedy was in the audience at that time, and he learned a great lesson that no matter how many people show up, they're there for you, and it's their day, and you've got to give it everything you've got no matter what happens.
Yeah, I think when we do that kind of thing, the kind of thing you do and I do, if we can remember that we don't change the world, we change people. People change the world, and it's not about us. And if there's one guy out there that gets the message, you can change a person, but there are certain people that are people changers. If you change them, you impact millions of people. So you just have to look at every one of those people as if who knows what's beyond them.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. Now, we've talked a little bit about your book, The Ultimate Gift, and then you went on to write The Ultimate Life and The Ultimate Journey, and I hope eventually we'll see both of those made into movies. We got one, so I'm hoping for the last one to complete the journey. Now, I think those books have a place in everyone's library because they're short, they're easy to read, they're memorable, and they contain a powerful message. Now I'd like to take a quick look at success in general, and I'd like to ask you, what do you feel is the number one reason people fail?
I think people fail because they don't have a clear objective. They don't know what it is. They don't know what success looks like. And if you've never defined success, it's impossible to achieve it. And people have forgotten that it's up to them. I mean, life offers an endless menu. You can pick anything you want, and you are where you are because that's where you chose to be. And if you don't like it, you got to get up off your blessed assurance and change the channel. And so I think most people, they're failing because they've never set a goal. They have taken whatever life has brought them, and they've failed to order anything. And because they really don't see themselves doing anything differently.
I think that's very true. I mean, people bounce around from job to job, keep looking for the grass is always greener kind of concept, that I'll find something there that will make it better for me, but really it's what's inside and what we do with ourselves.
And success is a self-fulfilling prophecy. It is what you decide it is.
Absolutely. Okay, well then, for the people listening today, what one skill do you think people should go out and really invest their time and money into learning?
I think people skills, enthusiasm, being able to motivate, communicate, and implement. I wrote a book with Coach John Wooden and Steve Forbes called Ultimate Productivity, and I think, I don't care who you are, you've got to be able to motivate first and foremost yourself, and that's why you got to be pursuing your passion. You got to motivate. You got to be able to communicate. You got to be able to communicate your dream, your vision, your goals with other people. I don't care who you are and what you do. No one's an island. You don't do it on your own, and you have to get people around you with whom you can infuse that enthusiasm, and they become a part of it. And then you got to implement. I mean, we live in a world when it's all said and done, there's a lot said and very little done, and nothing matters till somebody does something. And you got to go do something today. And, so many people that are out there, they have this vague idea of being successful or what they'd like, but they never get around to it. They never get to the point where something happens. And, they're always going to do it next month, next year, or once the weather gets warmer or the kids get out of school or whatever. And before you know it, 10 or 15 years has gone by and you haven't done anything. Well, if you have a goal, a passion, something you want to do in your life, there's something you need to be doing today. Maybe it's reading a book, learning more about it, making the contacts, whatever it may be, but there's always something you can do right now. What can I do right now that will get me closer to that goal?
Great. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Now, I'm sure you believe in having a mentor, and I'm sure you've had some mentors of your own. Who are some of those people that you've listened to over the years, and why did you choose them, or did they choose you?
A little of both. They choose you, you choose them. And Dr. Dennis Waitley was my first in the speaking and writing business, and he and Robert Schuller really encouraged me to become an author. In the business arena, it is very much Steve Forbes and Donald Trump, and those guys have been very good to me. And in the broadcast industry, it's been Ted Turner and everyone there. And and I am a big believer in creating your dream team. And you can get anybody you want if you just ask them. And all of those people became my mentors, and many, many others, the top people in every field that I'm involved in, because I asked myself, if I could have 3 people or 5 people with whom I could call on anytime I wanted, who would they be? And I wrote them and asked them. And you've got to make it easy for your mentor, too. Initially my relationship with them was, look, I admire what you do. I want to follow in your footsteps. I'm wondering if there's a way via phone, via email, via mail, via whatever, that periodically, several times a year, I could ask you some brief questions that you could answer on your time within your schedule. And it is rare anybody turns me down. And it's just that simple. I mean, you have not because you ask not. And it's surprising. It's like when you're in school and there's the pretty girl that no one asks out because everybody thinks everybody else already asked her out.
Sure, absolutely. It's a simple thing, the power of asking, and yet most people are just too afraid to ask or to approach the pretty girl or the famous rock star or the celebrity or whoever. But if you don't ask, as you said, you'll never get.
Oh, and the one thing you can control is your effort and your attitude, and if nothing else, I don't feel like I've succeeded until I've at least been turned down by the very best.
Sure. That's a good attitude to have. And, you can just cross them off and move on to the next people. I mean, there's, 7 billion people on the planet, so sooner or later you're going to hit the jackpot.
We're just finishing this movie, The Ultimate Life, and I wrote the script with some other great people and based on my novel, and we had this part for this old cowboy who lived up into the Depression years. He's 70-something years old, and he owns this ranch, and we had a little money left over in our movie budget. I was trying to think, who could I get? Who would I want? And it's not a very big part. It's nothing special. But I thought if I could have anybody do that I wanted, it would be Peter Fonda. He's a 2-time Academy Award nominee, legend in the industry. Called, asked, and he is he's in the movie. And it was just that simple. And everybody now is running around, how did you get Peter Fonda to do your movie? I asked him. And I'll guarantee you one way you won't get him in the movie is you don't ask him.
Sure. He's probably not going to be come knocking on your door.
Exactly.
And he's got things to do and places to be. So you've got to take the time to just ask. Yeah, simple.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I'm a big believer in the power of words, as I'm sure you are. I mean, you're a mentor of mine. I can tell that you've read a lot and studied a lot. And so from working with all the people you have and read all the books you have, do you have a favorite quote or two?
Well, many, many, many favorite quotes. I live with those. One of my mentors was Paul Harvey, and he was fond of saying, it's times like these that remind us that there have always been times like these. Because we always want to think the economy's bad or the circumstances are different or there's something keeping us from where we ought to be. But, my mentor, Coach John Wooden, said things turn out best for those who make the best out of the way things turn out. Or Napoleon Hill spoke to that by saying that every adversity comes with the seed of greatness attached to it. Every adversity, there's a seed of equal opportunity somewhere behind that. So, I believe all of those things, kind of stick with you, and and we all have a series of those that we carry around with us. And my mentor and friend Zig Ziglar, who we lost just not very long ago, And I got to participate in his funeral. And Zig would always say, you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. And that's what we were talking about earlier. It's not about the money. It's not about anything else. It's not even about you and me. It's if we will create value in the lives of enough other people, you can have everything you want. But if you worry about money, you'll be broke your whole life. If you worry about how can I create value in the lives of other people, you can have anything you want.
Yeah, I've always loved that quote by Zig. One of my favorites of all time. I love it. Okay. Now, obviously, any of your books would be a great place for people to start with if they're looking for answers, whether your business books or your business parables, life parables, I guess. But I'm wondering, what are 2 or 3 other books that you could recommend to other people to maybe get them started on their journey?
If you've never read a success book and you could only pick one, the book that's been read by more successful people than any other is Think and Grow Rich. It's amazing, and I'm doing a film documentary later this year with the Napoleon Hill Foundation, Brian Tracy and I, several others. And the interesting thing is that when you talk about Napoleon Hill or Think and Grow Rich with people, you don't even ask, have you read it? You say, when did you first read Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich? And it is difficult to find any person that's achieved any level of success in any field of endeavor that hasn't read that book, and most of them have read it multiple times. And it is revolutionary because it is the synthesis of a life's work. Hill, as a very young man, wanted to become a success and went to the great steel billionaire, Andrew Carnegie, and said, how can I become successful like you? And Carnegie said, I'm not sure what to tell you. So he made introductions so that Hill could meet hundreds of the most successful people of the day, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, on and on and on. And through these interviews, it became the science of success, and that was synthesized in the 1938 book, Think and Grow Rich. So if you could only read one, I would read that one. Another one, my mentor and dear friend, Dr. Dennis Waitley, The Psychology of Winning, I think is a fabulous book. Zig Ziglar's See You at the Top. Dr. Covey we lost last year, but his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, very, very powerful book. And Norman Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking, I think is groundbreaking because at the time, there was nothing else like it. Everybody else's work has built on Dr. Peale's work, but in the beginning, that was such a revolutionary book. And then to deal with adversity, Dr. Schuler's book, Tough Times Never Last, but Tough People Do. All powerful books. And then just on logistics of how to do business, Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal. I really enjoy his book, and there are many others. I am a voracious reader, but that would give you a good start.
All great books. I've read them all, love them all. One book I'd like to add to that list, I'm pretty sure you've read it, but He Who Thinks He Can is a book I really enjoyed because I felt that even though it was written in 1908, it just it really talked to me today. I didn't feel that it was 100 years old. I couldn't believe how fresh the ideas were.
That book was given to me by Charlie Jones, and
Charlie Jones,
a tremendous ambassador for books and reading. Charlie was. So.
Thank you, Jim. We're getting close to the end of this interview. If people could find out more about you or your books, or what information can you give people? Your website, YouTube, what?
Yeah, probably the easiest way is just JimStovall.com, STOVALL, JimStovall.com, and you can find out anything you want to know. My phone number's in the back of every one of my books. I have 10 million books in print, and I give everyone my phone number because I always like to tell my audiences, anytime you don't believe this is true or it works for you, it doesn't work for you, or your situation's different, or somehow you pick up the nearest phone and you call 918-627-1000, and I will take your call or call you back because I want you to know you got one guy who believes in you and believes in your dream, and countless people do it all the time, and it's my privilege to get to visit with people around the world.
Wonderful. Well, Jim, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today and to share your ideas with people that I'm trying to get my message out to. All I can say is thank you. And,
well, thank you for including me in this interview. And for allowing me to be a part of your book. And it's a thrill to speak with you and your audience. And anytime we can do it again, you let me know.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jim.